So, how do we best love our LGBTQ plus neighbor? That's a big question. And perhaps the simplest answer is love, but not some theoretical, doctrinal definition of love, but a simple and practical and fierce kind of love that shows up in places where that's needed most and where healing and reconciliation are the clear outcomes. Now, Kelly and I hope that making things right on our best day are all about that. And I am confident that our guests tonight and their organization embody that kind of fierce, redemptive love. So I'd love to introduce our two guests tonight, Sara Cunningham, founder of Free Mom Hugs, and Karrie Fletcher-Rollins, the executive director of the organization. Together, they oversee tens of thousands of volunteers in a simple global mission that all began with hugs at a Pride Parade 10 years ago. Thanks for joining us tonight, Karrie and Sara. It's so good to have you here. All right, we're going to come back around kind of on the back half of the call where Kelly and Sara are going to talk a little bit more about the organization. I had the wonderful pleasure. When was this, Karrie? Like a month or two
Mhm.
ago? I can't remember
Yeah,
when we
I don't know,
connected the
but you
first
were
time.
tucked away in a cabin somewhere,
Yes, yes. I
writing
was
your book.
I was on a little writing sabbatical, and
Yes.
I think I got introduced to you through Kelly
Hmm.
at first, and I wanted to just get to know your story. And we had just a wonderful conversation where I realized that like our stories are very similar. And I really feel like your and my story represent really important parts of in the history of our community, which are just worth really knowing and hearing about. And so I thought we'd start just by digging into your story a little bit. And maybe even before you start with like the details of your story, like just, a little bit about who you are and where you live and how you spend your free time and stuff like that.
Okay. My name is Karrie Fletcher-Rollins.
Yes, it is.
I currently live in the Dallas area, but we are getting ready to move back to Oklahoma, Norman,
Oh,
Oklahoma, so a little
cool.
closer to Sara. I am married to my wife of almost 4 years.
Hmm.
And Brian, you and I have this in common.
What what
We
what was
were
your
married
what was your day?
October the 4th.
And I'm
And what was
October
yours?
1st. October
Yes.
1st. So I beat
And
you
you're
by only 3 days.
yes. So we're getting ready to celebrate our fourth wedding anniversary, just like you and your husband.
Yes, I might
Um
have to always
uh,
call you because sometimes I'm the kind of guy that remembers how many years it's been, so I'll ring you just so I don't get in trouble with my husband.
okay, well, same. Like you and I can keep each other accountable. So yeah, I mean, we also discovered our love for Italy. You love
Yes.
Italy. I love Italy, and now my wife loves Italy. We've been twice now, but you go every year. But yeah, I'm currently the executive director of Free Mom Hugs, and the journey getting here was eventful.
Yeah.
I came out late in life. I came out at 48, and prior to that, I had spent 14 years of my life trying to change my sexuality because of my faith.
Mhm.
I've been a Christian since I was 12, and I knew at that time that there was something different about me. I didn't know what it was. This was back in the 80s.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about how old we are, but back in the 80s, you didn't talk about being gay.
Yeah.
And the topic of being gay was, it was a really negative, bad thing. So it was in the era of AIDS. We just
Yes.
didn't have very many role models, like we do today. But, um, you know, I, I had girlfriends in college, and that was like my first experience, like being around gay people. And I knew that I could relate to them. I knew that I was like them.
Mhm.
And, um, I had two relationships in college, and our
But
conversations were
not
always
prior to then? Not like in high school or
no,
yeah.
no, I dated boys. I always had boyfriends through high school and even into college a little bit. And
And remind me again, were you in church? I forget if you grew up in church or if that came
I,
later.
yeah, I did. Our family didn't go to church like every weekend. So like
That's
we
right.
weren't heavily, as a family, heavily involved in church, but I went to church with friends. And my experience in church was with a Baptist church, small Baptist church in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I gave my life to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And a very powerful moment in my little 12-year-old life. It was just a very important thing, a pivotal moment in my life, if you will, where God became real to me, where I wanted to read the Bible, wanted to learn more. But from, go through high school, going through college, I didn't go to church a lot. Um,
I guess
I
the
didn't
reason I
really
asked,
study the Bible.
the reason I asked, I just had forgotten that, and I wondered where you got the messages that
Oh, yeah.
made you wonder about being gay not being right. Was it church or was it just culture? Just curious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was church for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember the sermons about it being an abomination,
Oh, sure.
and that it was the worst sin.
Yep.
So those were the seeds that were planted in me at a really young age. Like I said, in those Baptist churches.
Mm-hmm.
So early 30s, I had been in a couple of relationships at this point, and got out of a really bad relationship, went through a really bad breakup, and I just had a lot of questions about being gay and being Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a little search on the internet, and I found Exodus International.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was another pivotal moment in my life, if you will.
Yeah. And maybe flesh that out a little bit for folks
Mhm.
that maybe don't know what Exodus International is.
Yeah. Exodus International was a really big ex gay ministry.
Mm-hmm.
It was around for decades. And their teaching was that there was something in your childhood that contributed to you being gay. And if you just go back and fix those things or allow God to heal you in those areas, that you wouldn't be gay anymore. And there were many, many people, who shared their testimony that God had changed them, that they were no longer gay. And some
So like
people,
ex-gay was the
ex-gay,
ideology, right?
yeah. So, a lot of people were married to someone of the opposite sex. I went to their national conferences, and I met some of them, and I was just inspired by their stories. And I made the decision that I didn't want to be gay anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped headfirst into their teaching. I read everything I could get my hands on. I thought they had all the answers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know why I was gay. And if I didn't believe I could be gay and be a Christian. And so I was going to give that up to have my relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did for about 10 years.
Mm.
10 years. I went to seminary during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed that God was going to lead me into ex-gay ministry, and I was going to help people to not be gay, and that was my life journey at the
Mm-hmm.
time. Graduated from seminary, started getting involved in a local ex-gay ministry, conversion therapy, whatever you would like to call it,
Mm-hmm.
here in the Dallas area. And it was at that time a couple of things happened. One, I became attracted to someone else, a female.
Mm.
And I had been telling people that God had changed me at that point. We're 10 years into this journey, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought God had changed me. And also having conversations with people at that ex-gay ministry about how they had been there for years and had not changed
Mm-hmm.
and were still attracted to the same sex. And that was just a shift in me. I I told the leaders of that ministry that I couldn't do this anymore. That I wasn't going to come back. I
Mm.
didn't really know what was going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see myself accepting myself as being gay at that moment. So it was another 4 years, another 4 year journey of me reading new information.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Matthew Vines and Justin Lee, for the work that you all did, writing your books, helping us decipher scripture, that has been used against us, and
Mm-hmm.
finally came out in 2016.
Mm.
And it was the most freeing thing I have ever done.
Mm. That was it's so funny. I remember the first time you told me that timeline. I'm just like, what the heck? Are we like twins or something? Like what?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I remember back then, like it was, I mean, we're not the first folks to come out of sort of evangelical backgrounds that did the best we could to try to,
Yeah.
um, and then eventually later in life, you kind of realize that it's not working and what am I going to do now? Were you ever at a point where you felt like it was either God or like, for example, when you had been in the ex-gay ministry for a while and it just wasn't working and you experienced attraction to somebody and just your authentic self just kind of said, okay, this is not working. Did you, did you feel like if you were going to embrace, being a gay woman that you couldn't be a Christian? Or did you feel like at the time that those could be compatible?
No, what the turning point for me is, I had been telling people that God had changed me and that I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't attracted to women anymore, that I wasn't gay.
Yep.
And so there was this point in there where I felt like a liar.
Yeah.
And so in just a real honest conversation with God on my knees in my living room floor, just me and God, I was like, I am not straight. And, I feel like I am lying. And like, how can that uh, be healthy in my relationship with you if I'm lying because it's not being truthful to who I am?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was never willing to give up my relationship with God. I knew that. Um, and, I just got to the point, I just had peace about praying about it. Like, God, I'm still gay after all of this time. And of course, there was a little bit of a journey in there where I was mad at God,
Sure.
um, that He didn't change me. Like, I was like, I did all of this for you, for our relationship. But I, I didn't feel like I had to give up my relationship with God to be gay at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I did the research and I found peace with God.
Yep, that's good to hear. Same for me. And sometimes I fear that we're kind of in the minority,
Hmm.
because we
Yeah.
know a lot of our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ plus community, and it was kind of hammered so hard that it's either gay or God. They
Hmm.
eventually get to enough of a point of authenticity in their sexuality or their gender identity where they're like, well, I can't not be this, so I guess I can't be a Christian, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
I hope and always pray that we can model something different to those folks. But I know a whole lot more
Mm.
people that have no interest at all in things of spiritual or at least of Christian nature because it's just so triggering to them.
Hmm.
It just brings up too
Yeah.
much pain for them to even consider that they could have, loved Jesus and been who they are, you know?
Yeah. I meet a lot of people like that. They don't do church anymore. They don't do the Bible. They don't do any of that
Yeah.
when they used to be so strong in their faith or active in the church. So
And I certainly
you're
understand
right.
that hurt,
Yeah, I
but
do too.
it breaks my heart, and I think it breaks God's heart too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what about so talk a little more about like not today, but like when you kind of turned the corner, right? When you eventually decided, okay, I can't pretend to be straight anymore. I'm mad at you, God. Like what kind of went from there as far as like when you started researching and exploration and finding peace and maybe finding even new community, for example?
Hmm. Yeah, I had a best friend who I worked with, who walked on this journey with me. She was also a Christian. So when I was trying to be straight, she was my best friend. And she was probably one of the first ones that I shared, yeah, I am not straight. And
Hmm.
I can remember an exact conversation I had with her. And so she was also in this journey with me when I decided to come out as gay.
Hmm.
And um, I unlike my wife, and I wish I could share a little more of her story, but she was in ministry and she lost all of her friends when she came out. That did not happen to me.
Hmm.
Um, my friends were so supportive. My family was so supportive. My journey was just a little bit different, but I will tell you, I saw the pain and I got to walk with her in her pain
Hmm.
when her friends that who are Christians would not have anything to do with her after we started dating.
Yeah.
Um, so, there was just this journey. I didn't know if I was going to be single the rest of my life.
Hmm.
I was going to stop pretending that I was straight because I was not attracted to men and I couldn't fake it.
Yep.
So I didn't know if I was going to meet someone or if I was just going to be single the rest of my life. But I just continued. I'm a researcher. So like if I'm into something, I'm like really into it. So I started reading again, like resources from the Reformation Project. I got involved with the Reformation Project. And that is where I found community.
Hmm.
Um, Gay Christians, people who had been on the same journey that I had.
Hmm.
And um, and ultimately being involved in the Reformation Project is how I met my wife.
That's
So
right. I forgot about that.
yeah, she just came to an event here in Dallas that I was leading, and we became friends.
Hmm.
And we knew pretty early on that there was something between us, but we were trying to play it really cool,
Hmm.
you know,
You know,
just trying to take things
we
slow,
should
be smart.
test another because I feel like everything about us is the same. How long from when you met her until you got married?
Hmm, let's see. So I
Uh,
met her.
I'm
I can't
testing
do
your
the math.
math.
I
I'm so
can't do
sorry.
the math right now.
When
And
did
you
you
know
meet her?
what?
When did you meet her?
My
What year?
mother-in-law is a mathematician,
I'm
and
bad at
she's
math
gonna
too,
be
but I
mad at
remember when
me.
I met Dan. So when did you meet your
Okay,
wife?
I met Mandy in May of 2019, and we got married in October of 2021.
Okay, okay. I got you beat a little bit by I met him in June of 2018. So
Okay,
yeah, but he came from
yeah,
he was similar too in that he came out late in life. Not from church baggage as much, meaning he didn't grow up in that environment. Um, but grew up in a small town and you know, eh, he didn't want to be different and he didn't want to be whatever,
yeah.
and so he just kind of shoved that down and he had been married for many years. Um, but eventually, his authenticity, you know, came out. So I wasn't even sure if we'd ever get married. I mean, like I met this great guy.
Mm,
I knew he was loyal. I knew he wasn't going anywhere. I'm like, that's good enough for me. And then he asked me to marry him, and I was toast. But that was a big step for me. And I'm sure. I mean, it sounds like maybe you had more confidence in your relationship with God than I did. I was a little more unsure, um, and it really wasn't. I like you said, like when you kind of got authentic, it wasn't about. It wasn't about that you like had dates lined up or you were going to get married like next week or anything. You just knew you
yeah,
couldn't keep lying.
right.
And that was exactly my story. I felt like when people ask me when I came out, I just say, I never know how to answer that question, number one. But I just really feel like God released me from having to fix my
Mm,
sexuality, released me
yes,
from having to stare at my navel and all the energy that takes to fix my sexuality. And he just said, Brian, just go be you. Just
yes,
trust us like you always have. And that was kind of that was my release, and then eventually I met some people and considered dating and stuff, but that really wasn't the catalyst for me to stop trying to be straight.
yeah. With Mandy, um, I just knew,
Mm.
when I met her, and I'm a
I
list
did I
person.
did too, like first
I
time. First time.
I had a list of exactly what I was looking for, and I prayed
So did
over that
I.
list. Look at that, Brian.
I know.
Yeah,
We're,
she was everything on that list,
yeah,
and I believe in my heart of hearts that God blessed me with her.
I love that.
The relationship, the marriage, and
On my
even
bravest days, I believe that too. But I've 80% of your confidence, but I believe that, and
okay,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
I used to have that. I had a list in the top of my journal of, you know, and I used to, because I was too scared to tell God this is my list for my husband, right? So I just called it my list for like, people that I really love. So, because we all have friends, but we only really have a
Yeah.
close tribe, right? And so I tried to apply that list of values of what I was looking for to just my closest people. But really, in my heart of hearts, I'd hoped that it would be a husband someday. I just didn't have the faith to admit it yet. And I literally, in our ceremony, in our vows, I read that list off. It was pretty cool. And that moment, okay, this is about you, not about me, but your story is like my
Ellis.
story.
Yeah.
Um, because I really struggled with having the confidence to know that I always felt like God tolerated, but who wants to be tolerated, right? Like I got to a point
Right.
where I felt like he tolerated me being gay, but I never really felt like God's blessing. And not until the day of our wedding and our vows did I feel like, did I stand before God and all these witnesses with peace and confidence in my heart that I was meant to be with this man across from me. Not until the moment of our wedding. That
Mm,
was like my most confident,
wow.
peaceful moment. And whenever I doubt and have doubts later, which to be honest, I do sometimes. I wonder if I've got this wrong. Like
Mm,
that's kind of the nature of being on the other side of faith things is you're not always
yeah.
sure, right? And I
Yeah.
know I believe God's got me even if I got this wrong. So I'm over that. But I'm never always sure. And I can always remember back to how I felt when I was given the vows of like, oh no, God was there. Like it was so clear. And it
I
sounds
know
like you were
that's
really clear with Mandy too.
yeah, and just to your point, sometimes I feel like as gay Christians that we are so busy trying to defend ourselves and the scriptures that are
Amen.
supposed to be
Yes.
about us that we forget that God's blessings are also for us.
Yes.
And I love that story about you though. Like that's beautiful. Like you were there at the altar with your husband getting married. It's beautiful.
Yeah. The blessings are for us. I remember, did you
Yeah.
did you wrestle with like were you hung up on like the 6 or 7 verses and did you have to like really dig in and make sense of those and get the cultural context or was that not as much of a hang up for you? I'm just curious, like the Bible part for you.
It really wasn't, after that 14 years and after I had had um, what I felt like peace in my
Mm.
prayer life and then just God leading me in certain directions. And, at that point, it wasn't. I mean, I'd read Matthew Vine's book, God and the
Yep.
Great Gay Christian, which is a great one to like, go through
Dig
the
into the
Bible.
theological piece of it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So no, I'm never going to be one of these big debaters, on the scripture and like tell me, exactly how you know that it's in the Bible that it's okay. I'm never going to be one of those. I know it in my heart and love is love and I experience the love, all the things that the blessings that we were just talking about, all of those things that he promises us,
Yeah.
joy, peace, beauty, all those things. I experienced that with her. So
It's like the fruit, right? And I loved
it
how you
is.
talked
Yes, it's
about
different.
how when you started getting into these communities with gay Christians, um,
Hmm.
and you sort of see the fruit of people's lives, and
Yes,
they're
you
really
do.
undeniable. Like if I ever meet a very conservative evangelical, God bless every single one of them, that isn't so sure about this, I just say, just hang out with some of my friends. Because you see, like it's kind of undeniable how the work of God in our lives and the fruit of the
Yeah.
Spirit in our lives, and it's like that's like the best way to sort of get over the theological piece. It's just like hang out with people that are gay or transgender and love Jesus.
Yeah. Sara Cunningham says this all the time. She says this word a lot, probably more than anybody I've ever heard say it. But she says it's the humanity
Mm,
of this. Like,
yes.
and it's human. We're human beings,
Yep.
and the love and all of that. It's real humanity. That's how she says it.
And you and I are very fortunate. We've really been blessed to have supportive friends and a foundation that could allow us to live more authentically. And we found communities of gay Christians and ways to serve and stuff. And there are a lot of people in our community that don't, whether it's small
Yeah.
towns, whether it's because they've just been traumatized in their lives and they can't even consider anything Christian anymore, even though there's probably like a really broken part of their heart that would because of course like like think about how you had a relationship with God when you were a kid. The innocence of
Mm,
that should be the beauty of what
yeah,
we experience when we're old and gray. Like it should never have changed. And that was taken from a lot of people in our community. So we're very fortunate, you know, in that respect.
agreed. Yeah, totally agree.
Tell me more about today, like what you're doing with your family and
Ah,
how did you find Free Mom Hugs and what's that
mm.
story?
Yeah, well, I want to share this little story about my family, my
Yes,
parents.
please.
When I came out in 2016, it was one of those we're going to agree to disagree things, and I knew that it was going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to some people on the call or who are maybe going to see this down the road, people can change because I have seen it with my own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
My mom cried, in 2016 when I came out. My mom loves Mandy. My dad walked me down the aisle when I got married to her, and my dad loves Mandy. I mean, it is a beautiful thing to see, and I never thought I would see it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I never, I mean, I am 100% comfortable, and I know not everybody has that. I know, people are married now and they go to their in-laws and they're not talking to you or whatever.
Right. Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I my family, I'm just so blessed in that way because they do love Mandy, and I have great in-laws, and they're on the call tonight, so I don't have to say that, but I am. I mean, they're just amazing. I mean, they love Mandy, they love us, they support us, and it is so incredible to have an extended family because I never thought I would have that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Mandy and like I said, we've been married for almost 4 years, which is crazy. But we pray together. We read the Bible together. We read books about Jesus and about God and, how we can have a strong relationship. So it's still something very central in our relationship, in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, what led me to Free Mom Hugs? I actually met Sara. It was Gay Christian Network back in the day
Oh
before it
yeah.
was Q Christian
GCN.
Fellowship,
Yep.
GCN. Yeah, in Houston, Texas. It was my very first one, y'all, and I was scared to death. You know how you can
I
have a
get it.
lanyard like of a color, like if you want your picture taken or
And
not?
you had the one where like, don't take a
I
picture of
did.
me. Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
take my picture. I am not out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the conference, they do, and we actually did this at our conference, and I love it so much. But they have I can't even think of what it's called, but they let open mic. They let you come up and share stories. And
Yeah.
Sara went up to the mic and she held up her little book. I can still see her in my mind's eye. She held up her little book and said, "I am the mom, and I am proud of my son. He's gay. I've written a book. Here it is." And
How do I
somehow,
sleep at how do we sleep? How we sleep at night. That's it.
how
I
do we
read it.
sleep
I read
at
it,
night?
Sarah.
Yes. So I kept running into Sara at those conferences every January, and some of our
Hmm.
friends introduced us, and that's how I got to know her. And I met someone who was on her board. They invited me to apply to be on the board of directors with Free Mom Hugs. While I was doing that, we were looking for an executive director, and I was like, I
Hmm.
really think this is something that I'm interested in.
Hmm.
And professionally, it was the door that opened. And I started in August of 2020 as executive
2020.
director, and
Right in the
it
middle
has
of
been,
COVID.
yeah,
Wow.
I up and moved back to Oklahoma
Hmm.
to start as ED, and it's been one crazy ride after another. And I have learned so much from Sara and the staff and the people, our volunteers. They're
Hmm.
so amazing. I mean, we are like 98%. I'm just guessing. I have no real stats. Okay,
Statistics to back this up,
I'm
but
just
you are the
making it up.
executive director. You probably have a
Yeah,
good
so
sense.
I'm going to making it up. Like 90, 95, 98% ally,
Allies.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Allies. And it's a beautiful thing. I remember the first time I put on a Free Mom Hug shirt and I went to a First Pride event with that shirt on. I was like, people were like coming up to me. I'm like, why are you coming up to me? And it's because I
Hmm.
had the shirt on, like Free Mom Hugs. And they were like, I've been looking for y'all. And it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, a perfect transition to talking to Sarah and Kelly. But before I do that, I just wanted to speak to Yeah, bring them on in. Come on. When you were talking about family, and another thing that I always try to remember is how fortunate both of you and I are, right?
Mm,
And because many folks don't have families, right, that are
yeah.
interested in thinking any differently about this, and have created walls between them and their kids. And so I want to acknowledge that, because there were a handful of people that registered for this call that said, I don't, my family isn't interested at all in me, and that's sort of the beauty of, I mean, it's just the beauty and the simplicity and the fierceness of Free Mom Hugs is to stand in that gap. And such a great story. So I will pass the baton to, thank you. First of all, Karrie, thank you we just really felt when we had met you, like we need to take some time and linger in the story, because
Mm,
it's a beautiful story of redemption, and it's a big part of our community's history. So thanks, Karrie.
mm. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Brian is passing it off to me for the very first time ever. So take it easy on me. It's my first time here.
Whatever. You like
Y'all know
you're
if you
chiming
know
in
me, I'm
all
a
the
social
time.
butterfly.
I am a bit of a maybe I'm a control freak and I do these too much, but I'm like, Kelly, let's do these together.
Yeah. And you didn't have to twist my arm when it came to free mom hugs.
To Free Mom Hugs, yes.
Not actually anybody, but these two in particular. I mean, I went to the Free Mom Hugs conference out in Dallas in April, met these two, and just like, oh my gosh, I want to be them when I grow up. So if that ever happens, if I ever grow up, I'll let y'all know. So one thing I wanted to say, Karrie, as you were talking, it really resonated to me how you talked about not scripturally debating anybody, because I really feel that in our work too. Like I don't feel like I'm equipped to scripturally
Mm,
debate anybody, right? You have a
yeah,
basis. You actually went to seminary. I'm a believer out here trying to do good work. So I really
yeah.
appreciate, that stance from my point of view, because I can only, when I get my faith down to the roots, it really comes down to Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor, right? And so that's exactly what I do. That's how I try to live. And that's what I see in y'all's work too. So that leads me into, I did enjoy, I love what you do. I love everything you do. I loved your conference this year. I met a lot of people, including Anne Marie, who's on the call. She gave me these cool octopus, and a lot of different people there. But I wanted to know from the two of you, maybe if there are any 2026 plans we could look forward to with Free Mom Hugs. Can you tell us anything yet, or still in the works?
Um, I will tell you that we are not going to do an annual conference next year. We're going to work on doing some leadership summits scattered throughout the year.
Cool.
We have our first destination, I think, now down, but we haven't announced that yet. So we'll keep some of that keep some of that information under wraps until we have some more details that we can share.
I fully
But
understand that. And I'm going to put in a
yeah,
plug for Atlanta just because, I'm me and I'm going to do that. And Kelly Blundell will have my head if I don't. So, no.
okay, yeah, Atlanta's a good one.
Yes, she's one of the bosses of me. No, I'm just kidding. So what for the two of you, and then Sari, I want you and I to have a conversation as well. But for the two of you, what are some things that are the top of your mind right now when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to support? What are you seeing? What's top of mind right now?
Sarah, I'll let you jump in. I've been talking for a while.
What I'm seeing, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I see some familiar faces. What a good looking bunch. Karrie, I have a box of Kleenex here because every time I hear your story, just thank you so much just for surviving and thriving and just being a part. I can't imagine any of this without you. You're never allowed to go anywhere else. And I can't wait to get you back in the same state where I know I can. Anyway, I just love you so much. And I'm just so thankful that you're here, that you share your story so beautifully. And I've known you and Mandy before, like through the engagement
Mhm.
and through the wedding,
Yeah,
and just the way you introduce or you talk about when you say my wife, it's just so lovely. And I just
Very
appreciate
honoring.
it.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
cool.
Yes. So with that, what I'm hearing is a lot of fear and anxiety. if you're talking about what's happening. The world is on fire. And the most important thing that we're doing, I think, within the movement of Free Mom Hugs is just to continue to create safe spaces and to be strong and faithful allies. And that's what we just encourage our volunteers to be. I see so many familiar faces here. Anne Marie, Jan, Bertie, it's so good to see you all here. And but yeah, Karrie, any?
Yeah, it seems like the world is on fire. Yes. The thing that I thought about when you asked that question is that I feel like now more than ever, it's important to share stories because it is the humanity. Sarah always says, she emphasizes the T. That's why I say it like that. But
I don't know why.
I feel like it's more important than ever to share stories, not just like mine or yours, Brian, but the transgender community, like sharing their stories, because I feel like right now that they're in the target. Like there's a lot of legislature and a lot of things going on against the transgender community, and some of it is misinformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I really feel strongly about sharing stories.
And that will probably always be the case, is that empathy is the key to changing hearts, but like it just seems like all the more now, where things have just become so especially dehumanized,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just misinformation, it's
Yes.
disinformation sometimes, especially with the trans community. We have a good colleague, Mark Wingfield. He said, it's probably not acceptable to be homophobic anymore, but it's absolutely acceptable to be transphobic today. And it's like, that's hard to argue with. Yeah. And I didn't even when it comes to transgender, I have ignorance. It isn't even just a church issue. It's an American issue. Like the statistics are like 27% of people know someone that's transgender. Like it's crazy, like the statistics. So we're still on such a lack of proximity and empathy curve with the transgender community. I have embedded ignorance around that stuff, not judgment, but ignorance. And not until I met, two lovely transgender people that love Jesus was my apathy, and ignorance exposed. And I had to decide, what am I going to do with that beautiful story across the room for me? It didn't change for me until I intentionally met and made friendships with transgender people. Yeah.
Same for me, and I can really appreciate, that you not only see that, but that you're working on it, especially being where you are. I don't want to go political, but your area, did have a lot of legislation, and I know that there was a lot that had to be done this year. So, thank you. I think that's very important. I did kind of skip a step, Sarah, and I kind of want to go back because I
we need
assume
to
everybody
learn about
knows what
Sara.
Free Mom Hugs is, but what if they don't? And they need to see my shirt too. So here's my Free Mom Hugs shirt, y'all. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about how you got this wonderful organization started, please. How, because it started with you, and now look, it's thousands of people being touched every year. So I want to know more about that.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, friends, if you're not familiar with the Free Mom Hug story, you can Google it, not now, but later. But the synopsis is this. I have 2 children. My youngest son is gay. I didn't take the news well when he came out. I behaved badly. It took some time seeing him coming out of his closet. I went into mine. I deconstructed, then reconstructed, but it was a journey from the church to the Pride Parade without losing my faith or my child. Meeting the community, hearing their stories about how they'd lost their sense of belonging as they'd been alienated from their families, from their church homes, and laws that affect families and friends like ours. I made a homemade button, and I went to Pride Festival in 2015, and with anyone who made eye contact with
Is that the button?
that is the button.
That's the famous button. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I was wondering because I'm like, how would anyone read a little tiny button? Well, it's a big button, so they saw it.
I made
It's
sure.
huge.
Yes. So, but the first hug that I gave went to a girl who said it'd been 4 years since she had a hug from her mother because she's a lesbian. And I heard stories like that all day. And I went home and just with horror stories in my mind. And so from that experience, we started the nonprofit Free Mom Hugs. And I love the logo because it's very clear whether you can offer a hug or a high five. We hear so many stories every day that moms, dads, friends, and allies, they'll get the logo or wear the shirt. And even when you can't use words, this sends a message that you are a strong and faithful ally. That means that you honor same-sex marriage as sacred. You celebrate the spiritual gifts of our LGBTQ plus family and friends. And I wholeheartedly believe that the gay community, I use that term respectfully, but the L and the G and the B and the T and the Q and the I and the two-spirit beyond, I pray someday we don't need the acronym, but right now we do, because it allows a vocabulary for people to have that conversation. Again, it was a journey. It didn't happen overnight. It took some time, but I have never, listen, I have never looked back, and I experience God, what I consider to be the power of the Holy Spirit, humanity, community, so much more than I ever thought possible. And as far as the transgender community, yes, they are under great attack. And this is, we've seen through the work of Free Mom Hugs, the power of fear and ignorance and the power of love and education. And it comes back to what Brian and Karrie were talking about. It's the fruit. Once we, I'm getting ahead of the question probably, Kelly. What was the question?
Oh, girl,
You're on a
honey,
roll,
you're
girl. Don't
preaching.
worry.
Keep going.
No, I get very passionate about this because I see these precious people on this call, and I don't know where you're at in this journey, but I just want to encourage you that you're here, and there's so much more on the other side of this. There's someone out there like us then who needs to hear from someone like us now. And it really is about loving one another, acknowledging one another, celebrating each other. And with all the heaviness that's going on in the world around us, it's easy to lose sight of what's it all about. But that's what makes it even more important that wherever we are, that we've got to share stories and acknowledge each other, celebrate our differences. Otherwise, what are we even here for?
Yes.
I told you I want to be you when I grow up. Golly. I mean, we could end it right there, right? You know, like I'm not going to, but oh my goodness, I have so much respect and love for what you do. And I hope you know that, both of you.
Listen, I love you, Kelly, but I'm not the first mom to offer mom hugs at a Pride festival.
No, but you put it on the map.
Well, it comes down,
That's true.
we're accountable. We're accountable to what we're learning. Before and after this call tonight, right now, guess what? We're accountable to what we know. So tomorrow's a whole new day for each and every one of us.
You're exactly right. And it goes back to, I always remind myself, there's a thing that I call the power of one. We never realize we have power within ourselves, right? Like you were one mom and you had this idea and it's grown. And, you know, the statistics show, I think it's Trevor Project that did this research, but if a transgender youth has one accepting adult, their suicide risk is reduced by 40%. We could be that one person. We could be that person giving a hug. I take that to every Pride that I go to. I've been to 5 Prides so far this year, almost catching up with you. No, I'm kidding. I have tried to catch you, but you know, the thing for me though, sometimes is I go to these events and I invite people to join us and they say, well, I want to be involved. I just don't know how. I don't know what to do. I don't know this and that. And they kind of let fear or uncertainty, you know, stop them. And my advice is simple. I just say, show up with love, right? So I want to know what you tell people. What do you say when they want to get more involved?
Just like you said, just show up. And I promise you, in Free Mom Hugs, in the life of Free Mom Hugs, we call that first interaction, that first hug, the first high five, the first acknowledgement, the spark.
The spark. I remember that from your book. Yes.
Yeah.
Spark.
And it's true. It's for both all involved. It's for all involved. And once you can go to freemomhugs.org and find your state chapter, you get plugged in. And you show up at a Pride Festival, and before you know it, you're helping with a second chance prom or a clothing closet or a national pride ride. And you realize, listen, you realize that lightning is not going to strike you. I promise. I promise.
I adore you so much. You have no idea. That's amazing. Because I feel the same way. I grew up a good little Southern Baptist girl who really didn't think that I was getting a lot of things right, because I wasn't the things in the box. So I love nothing more than going to prides. And there is something about when I'm holding my sign and I'm wearing my apology shirt, because our shirts say some version of I'm sorry. My sign says I'm sorry. You've seen it. There's a look that people get when they need that message. And there are no words that even a girl like me who talks all the time, I can't put that into words. It's beautiful. And I know y'all see it all the time. And that's why we do what we do. So I've also had people ask me about free mom hugs. How do you get involved if you're not a mom? If you're a dad, if you're a woman who doesn't have kids, if you're an aunt. So I think you have opportunities for that, but I'd love for you to speak to that.
Well, we have, you can go to freemomhugs.org, and we like to think of the word mom as an action verb. And we have free dad hug shirts. We have free uncle hugs, free grandma hugs. Yeah, it's so simple to get involved, but we do ask that you be fully affirming. And even if you're on that journey, I guarantee you, once you meet this beautiful community, you will see what it's all about. Karrie, you might
mentioned
into that. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Karrie.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, we welcome everyone. We would love to have more dads get involved, So and like you said, being a mom, it's a verb. We kind of think of it as a verb.
Action.
Action.
What are some of
verb.
the things you do beyond, like, because you just mentioned a couple, which just made me curious, and I know you can go to the website and get plugged in and figure this out later, but what are some of the things you do kind of beyond the hug? Like other ways people get involved, or are there kind of legislative actions that you're doing on a central or national level, or any other things beyond sort of like the parade environment that you get involved in as an organization?
Yeah, I'll let
So,
Karrie talk about our
yeah.
national programs versus local programs and such.
Yeah. So first I have to ask you, Brian, did you just make up the Beyond the Hug?
No, I just kind of stole
Okay, because we
that.
say it all the time. Sarah
I think I
says it
might have heard
all the
Sara
time.
and you say it a couple
Okay.
times.
Like we've had national conferences, like we said, we're going to do summits. This past year we had a podcast, which we are, that's still on the table. Trying to figure out when and where and how to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are still trying to set up programs that are beyond the hug. I mean, our busiest time of the year is during June, but as well, we're needed year round. We have spoken at colleges, at high schools. We get invited to churches. So we do things throughout the year as well to educate, because there are three components to our mission statements: education, visibility, and conversations. So we tried to hit all of those components of our mission statement, and we're still trying to expand. But yeah, we've done a lot of different activities out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
Sarah,
cool to see dads. Brian, I don't know if you remember this, but Brian and I went last August to Birmingham for the 1946 Roadshow. They were doing a road trip, and there's this guy, big burly guy, Southern voice. He stands up and he's talking, and I'm like, because I'm like, because he's probably like me. You get profiled, right?
yes.
But he starts talking, and you realize he's got a heart for this mission. Like he says, how it started with his wife going to parades. And he went as her bodyguard. Well, guess what? He fell in love. And I think that could happen to any of us. And I think they are actually on a podcast episode that 1946 did. So I personally, as a Southern girl, love to hear this big, burly Southern guy coming out affirming. Like, to me, that's just where the gold is. And that's just a testimony to how everybody can get involved.
Yeah. I
I'm
think
very
I'd like
grateful.
to just say that we have a couple of volunteers on here, and I just have to give a shout out to our area leaders, our state leaders, because they are so creative and so dedicated and just represent the very heart a free mom hug so beautifully. And it's a collaboration. We've never considered free mom hugs to be in competition with other organizations who are doing the work. We all have the same goal in mind. So we collaborate with PFLAG or ACLU or the Human Rights Campaign. It really is a beautiful, beautiful thing to see our chapters. And I will say that since November of this year, we've had an uptick of volunteers and merchandise sales and events than ever before, and they don't show any signs of slowing down. So that tells us that people want to do something, and I really do believe that Free Mom Hugs offers that platform. So if you ever wondered what it's like, or if you could do it, yes, you can and you should, and please do. The second thing is about dad hugs, grandma hugs. Listen, mom hugs are amazing. They're beautiful. But when you get a dad in there, it takes it to a whole new level. I was in California recently. They had a young woman coming up to the vendor table saying, "Do you have a dad here yet? I need a dad hug." And they were kind of late to getting there. And so they'd come by the booth several times looking for a dad hug. Well, finally, when they got a dad there, the parted ways, all the volunteers parted ways, and it was like a scene from a movie. And that's the power of a dad hug.
That's beautiful.
I mean, it
And we need
speaks to
people
like
of
we
color.
all
Yeah.
need different stuff, right?
Yeah.
Based on our past and our experiences and whatever. And it's like that's really that's
Yeah.
cool.
And the last thing about that is that we really do need people of color. I mean, it's just the reality is it's a different dynamic. And so we're trying to reach that, but we need people of color. What was the next?
representation.
Yes, thank you.
100%. Yeah, I do want to say, like, I know I got involved here in Georgia with the Metro Atlanta ladies with Free Mom Hugs. I'm not able to do as much with them as I would like to because, but they do a lot of cool things too. They've even done stuff like a honkin' wave, right? Like in front of the
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus bookstore. I thought that was super
Yeah.
awesome. And that's
Thank
a way
you,
to
Toby.
just show up.
Yeah, that started during COVID. When COVID hit, it's like we're based on physical touch, and showing up and being in proximity. So we had to get creative, and thankfully, with our programs director and our chapter area leaders, National Pride Rides, care packages, just figured a way, and that's what we did.
Exactly. So there's a way for, I think, everybody to be involved. And I really do love that.
Yeah.
So we have a question in the chat, and it comes to a question that I actually had for you, Brian and I, is that how do you feel that we can have better conversations with our family and friends who are anti or not quite there yet? We know how we do it. How do you approach having those difficult conversations?
Karrie?
Yeah, that's a great question because, everybody is on their own individual journey. Like, I'll just use my parents as an example. Like, having that conversation with them wasn't going to happen and wasn't going to be productive, 6 years ago when they were in this space of, we're going to have to agree to disagree, and I think, I don't know how it really is sometimes about timing, to have those conversations because they don't always, they're not always productive and people are in different spaces. And Sara, you may have something that you want to say to that.
I do. There comes a time when we have to, like Karrie said, just consider the timing. When someone's trying to have a conversation with you. I will tell you, there were pivotal moments in this journey. The first being when Parker said to me, "Mom, I want you in every area of my life, but how much of that is up to you?" That put me in check. When I saw him happy, when I saw other people celebrating him, accepting him, when I was still kind of on the fence, it kind of put me in check. Like I had to examine myself. But there are other times, especially around the holidays, when members of the community are going home or during COVID when they were in their homes, but if you find yourself in a situation where you're at the dinner table and you see the conversation going to where it's a little difficult or making you feel uncomfortable, then you have three choices. And you can either change the conversation, ask yourself, is this a time to educate, or just leave the table? You have choices, and it may vary from day to day, from holiday to holiday. And so we need to be mindful of that. But there's also, we have what they call, demonstrators or scoffers at pride festivals, for example. And we have a rule at Free Mom Hugs is that we don't engage. It's wasted energy. You're not going to change anybody's mind when they're there at carrying signs that are just so offensive and hurtful. So you just don't engage. And when we at Free Mom Hugs had decided that we're not here for those scoffers, we're here to pour into the community. We're here to pour into their families. And that is the fruit. And we've been successful with that.
I love, can I ask something, Kelly? This is something that I don't know if I caught this in a conversation with you, one of you, or later, but you said, Free Mom Hugs doesn't exist to replace family, right? You stand in the gap, but the point is to model something that family members could look at and go, oh, yeah. Like, how does that dynamic play out? Like, do you sometimes find like families getting involved kind of after the fact, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I loved how you explained, like, of course we're not in competition here. We're standing in the gap, but the whole point is to not replace that, but to invite folks into and model like
We
acceptance.
never, ever want to replace someone's parent. We're always hopeful that the parent or family members will come around. But until they do, we want to be absolutely that loving presence in the lives of those who need it the most. Karrie, you have anything you might want to add to that?
No, I mean, what you said about it. I mean, we have been accused of that before, to be honest with you, that I've seen a little meme out there in cyber world that says, I'm your mom now. That is not Free Mom Hugs. Like we will never put a meme out there. We will never say that. We want to be that supportive presence, for people at pride events and year round when they need it. I mean, just like Sara's story, like the first person that she hugged hadn't been hugged by her mom in 4 years. That little physical touch in itself was just so impactful. But Sara can never take the place of this lady's mother,
right?
So we don't even try to do that.
No.
Yeah, I agree. As many hugs as I've given, I always think like that too. I think, if only, I could convince your parent or, just be an influence, because that would be the goal.
Kelly.
I
wish. Call me.
I wish, because, I mean, I see it I've seen it all across the country, and I know if I have, you have. There's so much pain that people are dealing with simply from rejection. And that's not simple. I don't mean it in that to put too fine a point on it, but it's just they're hurting. And I just think it's really important to be out there giving that, and however they receive it. And I also love that you have a value of synergy, that y'all, collaborate and work with other organizations and people. We love to do the same thing. Hopefully that's evident, as much as we love coming alongside of y'all. But I do wonder, what are some of your, we look up to what you do, and you're inspirational to us. Who are some of your inspirations as either allies or just out there doing good work? Who do y'all get inspired by?
There's so many. Go, Sara.
Oh, I'd say, well, definitely, inspired by the Real Mama Bears, Liz Dyer's organization. We took our very first chapter leaders from that group. I wouldn't, in fact, Free Mom Hugs, I don't believe would be here without her as a resource. I joined that group when there were 250 moms in the group. This is a private online Facebook group for moms with gay kids. And you find the resources there, you find your voice, and But yeah, our first set of volunteers were from that group. So
Mm.
Mama Bears, PFLAG, I mean, they've been doing amazing work at PFLAG, the Reformation Project, Q Christian Fellowship. I mean, there's so many wonderful organizations out there. What you're doing
Yeah.
here, just trying to bridge that gap, it's hard. There's a lot of work to be done.
Mm.
And it's not a competition. We all have, I pray someday we won't even need free mom hugs, but until then,
Right.
here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say that a lot. I would love to work ourselves out of a job. Wouldn't that be
Mhm.
nice?
Yeah.
Carrie, who are some of your influences, or who do you look to?
Yeah, well, definitely the Reformation Project and Matthew Vines and, that vein, and Sarah said it earlier, I believe, like we're all trying to do the same thing, whether we're religious based or not.
Mhm.
We have the Human Rights Campaign, we have the Trevor Project, and we're all trying to do the same thing. We may just have different missions, and may have a different way of trying to accomplish that. The Matthew Shepard Foundation and Judy Shepard and everything that she has done. I think they just celebrated, not celebrated, yes, celebrated 25 years of the Matthew Shepard Foundation. It's amazing, some of the work and the organizations that are out there.
Mhm.
I really love that you're not religiously affiliated. I wonder if that helps just expand your impact. Ironically, I still
Mhm.
find you to be doing the work of Jesus, just a little more covertly, right? You
Just
don't
a
need
little
to be,
different, yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. Like I love that. It's like you're
You know,
doing the gospel. You don't need to affiliate that way. And, it's
Yeah.
just seems like it allows you to have a little more impact, hopefully.
thank you, Matt. Matt, whoever you are, I don't know. Brian,
Brian,
where did I get Matt from?
I don't
Matthew
know.
Shepard Foundation, maybe.
Yes, that's it, I'm sure.
Matthew Vines,
That, we do not identify specifically as a faith-based organization. I do identify as a woman of faith, and we will never leave faith out of the equation because that's how we got
Yeah.
here.
yeah,
We also will always talk about faith because you have good theology and you have very bad theology. So we have to talk about the things. Carrie and I were just talking about this the other day. It's how we got here, and bad theology is how we got here, and good theology is how we got here.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I never thought of it that way. I mean, you talked about the bad, and I was like, yeah, but when you say good too, that really resonates. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I see the work that we're doing as kind of like this big super highway that we're all on, and some are in the fast lane and some are in the middle. And I feel like making things right. We're the on ramp, because really we're trying to reach people with thoughtful, patient conversations. Brian being way more patient than Kelly in this conversation,
we're
but
a good balance. But that is true. Like sometimes we get some critique because our model is really to serve those that come from an evangelical conservative background. And even if some people feel like they might be late to the party, so what? Like people all deserve a safe place to rethink this stuff. This bad theology it was built into all of our DNAs, right? It goes deep. And it takes a long time to unwind that stuff to really understand the simplicity of the gospel. And like, I'm going to have patience for that for the rest of my life because people always deserve a chance to change their minds in any season,
Mhm. Listen, what I would have done to
Okay.
have something like this when I was trying, can you hear that? Sorry.
Nope, we're good.
Nope.
What I would have done to have had something like this when I was trying to figure things out, it would have saved me so much
Yeah.
heartache and
I
just complete, what I would have done.
yeah. Sorry, Sarah, for interrupting you,
Oh.
but I feel like I need to give another shout out to someone who has impacted me and inspires me, and that's Kathy Baldock.
Oh,
we
yes.
all love Kathy Baldock.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the journey that she went on, the books and everything that she's doing as an ally for this community is amazing.
Mhm.
She inspires me.
But I also like there's a buddy of mine who is actually maybe this is a good way to wrap it up, but he's on next month's call. And I remember meeting with him when I really starting this work because I really felt called to the long game. And to just be, you know, to ironically be just this gay married man hanging out with conservative evangelicals, being patient, you know, like let the irony of that speak to you. But I really felt very called to that. I wasn't a martyr, like I felt called to that. But I wondered, I saw these people who are really out there being activists and really protecting our community and the hurts and the harms today. And I'm like, what, you know, and he just wisely said, there's room for all of it. We all thank God that there are people out there that are strongly activating against the harm against our community today. And there's room for me and for us for that patient long game work. So maybe 10 or 15 years from now, this is a non-event, you know, or I don't know how long it's going to take, but like, I want to keep believing in that.
I hope so. I hope so
Yeah.
too. Well, before I'm not saying it's time to go or anything, but
It's pretty close though. So if you have any parting thoughts, Sarah, now is the
Yeah.
time.
I gotta get up in my seat though.
All right.
Okay, this is a poem. If you've heard it before, whatever, but I want to share it.
Yay.
If God created the night and the day and the dawn, and of course the dusk, and the tangerine rose pink sunset, and the infant bright of morning, and the deep amethyst twilight, then to perceive the world in binary is to forgo knowledge of the divine. That's by David Gate. Isn't that beautiful? I love that.
Shared your post-it. This is one thing, I don't know if you remember this, at the end of the Free Mom Hugs card, one of the last days, y'all put sticky notes with inspirations on the backs of chairs. Mine stays with me all the time. It says, don't let them dim your light. This is always in front of me, and so is a Free Mom Hug sticker. Y'all, I mean, I really do appreciate you. Brian appreciates you. We love being in synergy with you, and I'm very grateful that we had this time with y'all tonight to share, you know, our audience and meld with your audience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And also
thank you.
be sure to share the resources. Brian, 1948, Kathy Baldock's resource. If you would, here's my book. It's How We Sleep at Night, a Mother's Memoir.
It's so good. And it's an easy read. It's a quick read. I
Thank
loved
you.
it. I literally read it in an afternoon. So
is Amazon the best way for that, Sarah?
Yeah, or you can let me know. I'll send it to you. But Amazon, they have it.
We'll gather up.
I have a couple copies too.
We'll
Thank you
gather
so
up some
much.
resources when we send
Matthew
out
Hines, the Reformation Project, you know, and for those of you who are here, you know, freemomhugs.org. You can email Sarah at freemomhugs.org or Karrie. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear your story. Thank you for being here. And the world really is a better place because you're here. So thank you for taking the time.
I completely agree.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.